Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. My name is Ace and I got another TF2 commentary here for you. As you can see, I am playing as a scout, doing some King of the Hill, starting off on Sawmill. There's 2 matches in this video. And the weapon of importance, if you like, is the Sandman. But on top of that, I am still using the stock strange scattergun and of course the pocket pistol, which explains why my health is not 110 but 125. And if you are wondering why I am pointing this out, is because the penalty on the Sandman, the weapon of choice for this video, does give you a 15 health penalty, so your max health drops by that amount. But you do gain that alternative fire, which allows you, of course, to stun the enemy. Assuming the distance between you and the enemy is enough. I have had many occasions where I was trying to stun somebody, but I was too close and they were running towards me as well. And then they took the 15 damage, or if I was lucky with a random crit, which rarely happens, they take 45 damage. But the stun doesn't work, and the important part of the alternative fire for the Sandman is the stun, of course. That's the entire point of the weapon, I find, because there's no difference in damage, there's no difference in weapon speed. It's all about that ball and all about the stun that happens if you do it correctly, because if the distance is even bigger than the minimal distance required to trigger a stun, of course the duration of the stun will also increase. So just keep that in mind, because even if you are using a secondary that works really well with the Sandman, and I'm of course referring to the guillotine, because the guillotine crits for 150 on a stunned target. Sandman stuns, 1 + 1 is 2, equals enemy almost dead or just straight up dead. Unfortunately, if you stun really well, if you do stun, but your distance is fairly close, then of course, before the guillotine hits, the stun is over, and therefore you won't be able to crit. Those are small things you have to take into consideration. But let's just stick to the Sandman on its own, of course. The Sandman on itself is not a weapon of choice for me at all. In fact, I hate the damn thing. And not because it's a bad weapon, in fact, it's actually a pretty good weapon. But there's always 2 arguments that, even though they are very good arguments, they don't really convince me per se, because the Sandman doesn't fit my playstyle or my personality even. And as you can see, we just switched over to Viaduct. But we'll start off with the first argument, which of course has to do with the health. Like, I don't like to be squishy-er. Like, a scout is already very squishy, and if I'm not using the pocket pistol, my health drops to 110. Now, the counter argument to that is of course that the scout is already squishy, and the difference between getting killed at 110 health is not much of a difference than getting killed at 125 health. For example, if you take a rocket from close range, you can usually still live through that, but if you take a second rocket, it doesn't matter if you have 110 health or 125 health, you still will die. And that's a valid argument. Unfortunately, it just, I don't know, it feels like I'm too squishy. Like, if you have seen my candy cane video, you can understand that everything that makes me squishy is a weapon that I don't necessarily like. And it doesn't necessarily have to mean that I don't like it on only the scout. It's just in general, like, I like to have weapons that don't penalize me, if you like, or screw me over for just having them equipped. Which is unfortunate, because the alternative fire is of course a certain amount of skill based and a certain amount of luck based, because you can of course, you have to predict your movement, you have to do it from a certain distance, otherwise the stun doesn't work. And of course the environment has to work in your favor, because if you are trying to hit the ball on top of a cliff, it might just get stuck on top of the cliff, or the person just walks back and the ball flies over their head and there's no hit going on. Like, there's all these little factors that you have to take into consideration if you are really eager to get the alternative fire. But if you do hit somebody, it is very, very nice, and that's another satisfying factor, which is another pro for the Sandman, of course. Personally, it's not enough for me. Then again, if you are then using it, of course, with the guillotine. Like, if I were to use the guillotine and the Sandman together, and if I was actually good with the Sandman, then I would say go for it, because the amount of rage I've seen against people of them just getting stunned and instantly getting gipped because they got a knife to their face is just delicious. And even if you don't use the guillotine, just that stun allows you to, you know, change one-on-ones. It allows you to get out just in time if you manage to get a stun. There's a very good example on, of course, Viaduct here, when a soldier almost kills me, but my ball was already on the way and stuns him. Like, I would not have been able to take a second rocket, but he was stunned, so I could make my getaway. And those are things that that makes the Sandman very valuable. But it all comes down to making sure that you do hit. Because also, if a demo man starts charging towards you because they have a shield equipped, you can also stun them and their charge stops. Like, there's all these little things you can do, but it all comes down to hitting a target from an appropriate distance against a penalty that will always be there. So I'm a little bit conflicted. Like, I personally don't use it. I rather use the guillotine on my secondary and then the regular bat, for example, as my melee. But that's just personal taste. Let me know what you think, and I will catch you guys next time. Take care.